Christian Donlan, as I entered the office this morning, I saw you getting very excited about the weird nature of game design, which is a little bit infectious.
Yes, it probably. Also, I have a cold, which is very infectious, so that might be just combine the two there.
So the game that prompted this is Woah Dave. I don't really know anything about this other than it came to the PS4 last month, right?
That's right. In fact, in brilliant timing, it has just stopped being free on PlayStation Plus.
So I feel good for a topical nature of this video.
Yes. It's made by Choice Provisions, who were formerly Gaijin Games, who did the Bit Trip games.
Right, okay, yep.
I've only just realised that they are based in Santa Cruz, which is where The Lost Boys was filmed, and also, weirdly enough, where my sister was born.
This is fantastic trivia.
I think also it's where I want to say it's where skateboards are invented.
But the one thing that was invented there that we can talk about is Woah Dave.
Oh, thank you for getting me back on track.
No
That's beautiful. I didn't even notice. Yes, so Woah Dave is, I would describe it as Super Mario 2's mechanic of lifting and throwing things,
sure,
set in the Mario Brothers one-screen world. And it's got a bit of Super Crate Box in there as well.
It's a high score game.
It's a high score game where you pick up eggs and you throw them around, and enemies spawn from the eggs, and they walk down a series of tiers. When they get to the bottom, they come back to the top as worse enemies, a bit like Super Crate Box. But the thing is, when they die, they drop coins, and the only way to score is by collecting the coins. So it's not enough to be good at killing things, you actually have to then be in a position to reap the rewards.
Sure.
It's almost like a metaphor for something, I don't know.
Nice.
Yes.
And there's a weird thing going on with that particular part of the system, right? The mechanic of picking up coins and when you want to do that.
Yeah, so it's an arcade game with a mechanic that I have never ever seen in an arcade game before, which is that you have 3 lives, and when the lives are over, you need to start again, or in the vernacular of arcades, you'd need to put in another 25 cents.
Yeah.
In this case, though, there's a quirk that if there are any coins left on the playing field at the time when your final life expires, they remain there until you start again, which means that you can die with a load of coins there, and then your next turn, you can just pick up those coins and start off with like 20 coins, with a score of 20, which is not bad.
That sounds like a really strange idea.
It is a really strange idea, but it's in a weird way. I've never seen an arcade game which suggests that all of the games that you play exist in some kind of continuum that kind of extends beyond your individual term. It's a very odd mechanic. I've never seen it before. And
you maybe had a slight inclination that the developers didn't necessarily have that in mind from the beginning.
Well, it looked like, so the game, it has this kind of, I don't want to say lo-fi because that's the word Pitchfork uses when they're trying to talk about something which was made in someone's garage. It has this kind of rough and ready look to it, which belies the fact that I think it's actually a very skillfully made arcade game. But I did wonder whether this was a happy accident which then stayed in the game. So, Chris, I did some journalism.
You did not.
Which is actually...
We told you about that.
Well, when I say journalism, I used the contact form on their website to ask them about this. And I got a lovely reply from someone whose name is Dant Rambo.
Which is a fantastic name.
If your name is, which I'm assuming is like either if your name is Danton Rambo or Dante Rambo, then you're doing all right even before you make.
You may want to reconsider aligning maybe being an action hero rather than.
Yeah, I mean, like, imagine if like you were captured somewhere and they said like, "Oh, don't worry, Dant Rambo is going to find us." You'd be like, "Well, this is all right. I'm off the hook." So I wrote to him and I asked him about this. Should I read out his... I'm not going to do his voice. Okay. Because I don't know his voice. But I can imagine it would sound a bit like my dad's. Anyway, so he said that amazingly, I think you're the first person to ask us about this, which is always nice. Always nice to hear. And yes, in fact, the whole thing about the coins being left was a bug. They were going to fix it, but we decided, quote, it was kind of fun, and some people around the office had begun to build their strategy around it, so we kept it. And I said, like, this is... Because one of the weird things is I built my strategy around this, and inevitably you go... It's an odd thing, because when you're on a roll, you suddenly think, I'm doing really well, I should probably do myself in. Which is not something that arcade games really encourage very often. You're like, I'm on a roll, how long can I keep this going? But with this one, you think, I've got loads of coins on the board, I should probably die now, because then I'm going to start off with like a 40 coin head start. And he was saying, that's exactly correct. We saw someone at PAX Prime amass a ton of coins, almost every surface was covered in coins, and then kill themselves. It was amazing. And like, that is what, like, as a designer, you're constantly trying to, I imagine, influence player behavior, and this seems like this is influence player behavior in a way that is really strange and counterintuitive. But the game is sufficiently oddball for it to work.
Sure.
I've never. It's so rare that you see, particularly an arcade game, where they're not derivative, but they build on this rich history which is so established. It's so rare when you're like, I have never seen this mechanic before, and it is making me do really odd things. So Woah Dave is wonderful. Dan Whitehead reviewed it for us and gave it 9 out of 10. But I think it's worth, even if you don't like arcade games, it's worth looking at just because it's got this mechanic that you will not have seen.
That's cool. I love thinking about just the oddities of game design sometimes. You hear about bugs and features and the overlapping kind of nature of those two words. Generally, you think of something like Goat Simulator where they make a joke out of that, but this has actually created a strategy around that.
Yeah, I think the painter Turner said like he never made a mistake that he didn't capitalize on. I'm paraphrasing him terribly, but I think there's something beautiful about that.
Beautiful. Oh, well, Christian Donlan, I'm excited that you're excited about Woah Dave.
The problem is I'm always excited, so you need to kind of separate the week from the chat a little bit. But yes, check it out.
Cool. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you so much.